Hey guys, this is part four disclosure of the most important document that you're going to see during your real estate transaction. Okay. My baby is taking a nap, so he's about to wake up. So you might hear him cry if he does. Anyways, disclosure. If you just happen to land on the disclosure page, I highly recommend going back to the last three videos and go and look at them in order. Okay, so we're going to talk about disclosures that the seller has to make for their property that's for sale. So if you are a for sale by owner and you want to reduce your liability in the sale of your property, and you also want to understand, like, let's just say that a real estate agent comes to you and says, hey, you know what, I have the buyer, will you compensate me? And you come to an agreement and all of that. Here are some of the disclosures that they will be asking you for. Okay, so just keep in mind that this reduces your liability, and this reduces the chance that you're going to be sued upon the transaction or anything like that. So disclosure, what are we supposed to disclose? So in Arizona, the seller property disclosure statement has to be filled out by law. Most people have insurance on their property, so they can get an insurance claims history to see if there's been any insurance claims filed. Are there foreign sellers? Are you not a U.S. citizen? And what happens through the sale of your home? Or are you purchasing from a foreign seller, and what happens through the sale of their home? Lead-based paint disclosure. This is really important, and I'm going to go over the lead-based paint pamphlet and why we disclose whenever there's a house that is older than 1978, and why it's important, if especially if you have young children, because there are effects of a child eating lead-based paint, and it tends to happen because they like to hang out on the windowsills. And I used to not really believe it until I had my little one, and he loves to hang out and chew on the windowsills. And then it also talks about the affidavit of disclosure and any changes during escrow. So I'm going to go through a couple of disclosures that you might see during the transaction. They might be extra, but at least you'll know what I'm talking about. Okay, so what is a seller's property disclosure statement? As a buyer, when you go through MLS, you may not see a lot of the documents because they might be protected information. But as an agent on our end, we can see a lot of the documents that are provided, a lot of the disclosures. Okay. A seller's property disclosure, for example, looks like this. Okay. Some people are very familiar with these and they like to read them because they like to know, like, how old, especially like in Arizona, they like to know how old the AC is, if it's ever been replaced, what happens, so on and so forth. Have they done an insurance claim, and what happened? This is a very telling document that might basically lead your inspection periods. Sometimes when they don't explain anything, you just want to do them all, but sometimes you want to focus on something specifically. So for example, I saw right here that a microburst hit the roof and the roof has been replaced. You might want to get a roof inspection, right? So it's telling you that the roof is a year old. And a lot of sellers don't provide as much information, which is very unfortunate, but a lot of them do. So this is a great example of what you're going to see in a seller's property disclosure. By law, the seller should be filling this out, and you can see it right here. Arizona law requires the seller to disclose material important facts about the property, even if you're not asked by the buyer and the real estate agent. So if you're a for sale by owner, you should be disclosing all of these, and maybe you should contact somebody so that you can fill one out and have it for your house and readily available. Usually if the real estate agent brings you a buyer, they're gonna give you one and have you fill it out. It is very unfortunate that investors usually say that they're not going to provide this. Real estate owned property as well, so a bank usually won't supply this, and it makes more sense for a bank because the bank does not flip the property, to just sell it. But if you're buying a property that's been completely remodeled, I don't see why this shouldn't be there, because they know what they changed. They know if they moved plumbing around, they know if they moved electric around, they know if they added new appliances, and if they changed the roof, and if they changed the AC, or if they didn't. They should be able to provide this. So sometimes I'm very worried about flipped homes if they don't want to provide this, because they should have that information. They know what they did, they know what they didn't do, and it is very telling for you, so that you can go do your due diligence. Moving on to the next one, right here, when we're talking about an insurance claims history, I think I may have downloaded one, but maybe not. An insurance claims history is basically a note from the insurance company stating if you have made any insurance claims in the past 5 years. Sometimes homeowners have recently switched insurance companies, so they may not have the full 5 years, but at least try to get whatever amount of time you have. Sometimes we can get some insurance brokers to get us that insurance claims history, but it's not always possible. So try your best to get your own. Foreign sellers. The foreign investment in real property tax, FIRPTA, is applicable if the seller is a non-resident alien individual, foreign corporation, foreign partnership, foreign trust, or foreign estate, basically a foreign person. The seller agrees to complete, sign, and deliver to the escrow company a certificate indicating whether the seller is a foreign person. The FIRPTA requires that a foreign seller may have federal income taxes up to 15% of the purchase price withheld unless an exemption applies. Seller is available for obtaining independent legal and tax advice. So the baby just woke up. I don't know how he's going to act, if he's going to be in a good mood or in a bad mood, but I'm going to push through and see how he reacts to me creating these videos. I just heard him open the bedroom door. Lead-based paint disclosure. Again, it's very important for children, because as you can see with this disclosure is it can affect their nervous system, their learning disabilities, speech, language, poor muscle coordination. I mean, this is a really great pamphlet to look at when you are purchasing a house that is older than 1978. And the reason is because it can affect your children, because they might be, chewing stuff that they're not supposed to. Great pamphlet. Obviously, if the property is that old, we will provide one to you. Keep in mind that when you're reading lead-based paint and when you're seeing he's reading. When you're seeing this, it's basically because there is that issue right there with the lead-based paint. La, 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 la. So my house was not built prior to 1978, so the lead is not as big of an issue, but there are items that are made of lead that the kids can get into, toys or whatnot. So this is very important for you, for those of you that have kids, to pay attention to. Affidavit of disclosures. The premises are located in an unincorporated area of the county, and 5 or fewer parcels of the property than unsubdivided property are being transferred. So the seller will deliver an affidavit of disclosure. I'll show you a sample of one. And then the changes during escrow. Seller shall immediately notify buyer of any changes in the premises or disclosures made herein in the SPUDs or otherwise. Such notice shall be considered an update of the SPUDs. Unless the seller is already obligated by this contract or any amendments thereto, the correct or repair of the changed item disclosed. Buyer shall be allowed 5 days after the delivery of such notice to provide notice of disapproval to the seller. So what happens? So if you are a seller and you have to replace the AC or replace anything, you have to notify the buyer, okay? And and that opens up the ability for the buyer to actually cancel if they disapprove. Anyways, that concludes the section on disclosures. And I wanted to go again to the MLS and show you some of the types of disclosures that you might be seeing that are not actually specified, that might become just part of additional addendums. So we have an airport disclosure. This is a great property to look at because you can see all of the airports that are in Tucson, and the proximity of this property is close to Buffalo Soldier Electronic Testing Range and a military training routes. So there's a great airport disclosure. Chiranti was great at that. An affidavit of disclosure. This is what an affidavit of disclosure looks like. I've done one in my entire 11 years because I sold a manufacturer that required an affidavit of disclosure. The seller is to fill this out and the buyer receives it. And this is handed to the title company as well so that they can record it with the property. So that's an example of the affidavit of disclosure. I showed you the seller disclosure. I went a little bit through the lead-based paint pamphlet. Oh, here's an easement. This is basically a description of an easement. It's not showing the plat map, but it gives you a good description of the easement. This one also has a road maintenance agreement, and this is very usual for unsubdivided land. Maybe there's a normal single family residence, maybe there's a manufactured home, but this is a good sample of a road maintenance agreement. So basically, if you notice, obviously, that there's no concrete or there's like a legitimate road to the property, you might see a road maintenance agreement. And what that means is that you are agreeing to help maintain the roads. So if the homeowners come up with a plan of maybe adding concrete or maybe filling in like really big potholes and whatnot, even if it's dirt, you're basically agreeing to help out with that. So that is a good example of a road maintenance agreement. What else? I think that's pretty much the main ones. This is the lead-based paint disclosure, and a couple of people sign it. The sellers sign it, the buyers, even us as agents. We are acknowledging that this was received whenever there is property that requires the lead-based paint disclosure. I like to look through some of these so that I can see if there's any more types of disclosures. But that is the reason why. Sorry, the baby's wanting to play with my electric cord to the laptop. So that concludes the disclosure portion of the purchase agreement and why this is actually important to you as a buyer and also important to you as a seller, because as a seller, you're supposed to provide these disclosures to the buyer. And maybe you're not aware of that. And it's also important to the buyer because if you are foreign purchaser and you go to sell your house, you might be liable for the 15% of the interest. And also, if you're currently the seller and you are foreign and maybe somebody didn't explain to you, you might not like what your proceeds are. Insurance claims history, seller's disclosures, sometimes we don't have 100% accurate information, but this is all part of your next actually, it's going to be part of your due diligence. So all of that is going to help with that. The next video is going to be on warranties. Hopefully that video is a lot shorter, and I'm going to explain what the changes were. So I hope this video was informative. My name is Adriana Rodosola with Coldwell Banker. If you have any questions, 520-249-7029. You can find my information anywhere online. I would prefer that you reach out to me directly because I rarely respond to YouTube comments. Thank you. Peace out.